Come on, what could it really be? Is it time for another episode of Fun Zone with Nordista Freeze? I believe it is. What's up, everyone? Hope everyone's having a nice Friday. I believe is when this is coming out. It's Sunday today, beginning of the week that we're gonna put this out, and Sunday night. It's just dark and sad in Nashville tonight. It's like one of those Sunday nights, and it's just like rainy too. But I'm excited to be talking with my friend Michael here from the band Dolly Spartans. He's hitting me up right now on Messenger. Let's get this rolling. It's gonna be a good time. Thank you. Thanks for watching. If you like Fun Zone, if you like Freeze TV, subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Spotify, Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Even the formats you don't use for it, you could show some love by following on the other ones. Blah 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 blah. I know it just sounds like filler garbage, but it really is important. I live here with my parents in my basement, in this basement here, and coming to you from this like closet with these puzzles. I'm the real deal. You can believe me. Just trying to make it, doing what I love, which is playing music and being a part of a community with friends like my friend Michael that I'm bringing on tonight. So without further ado, let's welcome him into the Fun Zone, baby.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, Michael?
How you doing, Freeze?
Good, man. It's great to see you. Wow, you're
Great
in
to
a
see you too.
beautiful room. Is that your house?
It's just my it's like a little like a room. So I'm in my I moved back in for the time being, just with the pandemic and everything. I'm probably gonna move out again this year. But um so basically the way my house is set up, there's like my room is over there on the other side of the wall, but there's like some weird construction happening up above. So I was like, all right, I'll just move in here. And this is kind of like a little storage space thing where we keep supplies. It looks
Wow.
it looks a lot nicer than it actually is. It's actually really just a tiny cramped little room.
Wow, wait, so you're in New York, like with your family?
Yeah, yeah, I'm with my family. Partly because when the whole pandemic hit, obviously, kind of money went down. And how
Yeah,
about you though?
I'm good, man. I'm coming to you from a closet in my family's house too. I moved back in with my folks for the pandemic. I was just saying that right before I added you in, so it's crazy. We're in a little
Oh
bit of a
my
parallel
god,
universe right
we're
now.
literally we're closet cousins right now.
I know, isn't that cool?
That's
I can't
awesome.
believe this.
By the
Well,
way, how's my mic sounding? Is everything working? Because
it
my interface was like crapping out for a good like 5 minutes. So
actually just sounds incredible. Like I'm not just saying that. It actually sounds really good.
really,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's a very nice like tone to it too.
It's just a 57.
Really?
Yeah, or a 57 beta or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know much about mics, but I thought 57s didn't have that circular ending to them.
I think that there's a 57 and 57 beta has the circular
Oh,
ending.
I
I don't
see. I
I don't
see.
know enough about mics either to really.
Wow, wait, so are you from New York originally?
Yeah,
Wow, no way. Born and raised in the city?
forever.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
Oh yeah, and you're in Nashville?
Yeah, I'm born and raised here in Nashville.
That's awesome. How's it been?
It's all right, man. I mean, I don't know, not great. It's been
Yeah, I
depressing.
feel you.
I feel like sad, but like there's a lot of good moments too, but it's just hard not being on the road, and that's just all I want to do, and so it's just very frustrating. Uh it like touring was like everything. It was like my social thing that I do, but also like my work thing that I do, and also my like
Yeah.
art thing that I do. So now I've like lost them all. So I just am like very confused for like 10 months now.
I feel that. It's actually funny. I was watching your video earlier today, the one that you shared of you playing. It was lovely.
Oh, hey, thank you so much. Yeah, I got to film that at
Really, really good.
the Future Crib house with those guys. So you remember
Yeah,
Future
it made
Crib?
me
Yeah, of
nostalgic.
course you do, because
Yeah,
you did the whole interview
of
with them
course. I
too.
saw Johnny on drums.
Yeah, Johnny on drums and Bryce
Bryce,
on
yeah,
guitar.
Bryce on guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, man,
Oh
they're
wow.
awesome. That show we got to play with you in at Alphaville was like legendary. I think about that a lot. That was the most fun I've ever had in New York.
Oh
That was
my
so
god, I'm
cool.
so glad. And honestly, the Nashville and Knoxville stops on our tour were I think probably my highlights for me. They were just awesome. I mean, we had a lot of great stops on the tour. I don't want to take away from any of them, but that was like, I just remember leaving feeling like there's something in the water here, like being like
Yeah,
this is just it's like just like a whole like city of talent and like kindness. I don't know. It's really nice.
that's cool. Wait, where did you play in both of those cities? Do you remember on that tour?
Oh, I don't remember.
Do you play the pizza shop in Nashville at Two
No,
Boots?
we played. No, it wasn't Two Boots. I wish we almost played Chris Rock's Mansion, but then that fell through.
That's right.
We played. Oh, I don't. It's something. It's a club. It's like right near a big venue where I think like Mom Jeans and those bands were playing.
Hmm.
And Wilbur Shaker and oh my
Very
god.
interesting.
But what is the name? It's like a small club
Was it
place.
the Cobra or the East Room or the End
It was not the End or the Eastern. I
or
don't think it was the
Betty's?
Cobra. I can tell you right now what it is. I'm gonna go back through and I'm gonna look this up because now I need to know.
Please do. Your
It
hair
was
is
us.
short, by the way.
Yeah, I actually just got it cut
Looks good.
relatively recently. Thank you. Yours always looks good.
Thank you, man.
Um, shit. All right, hold on. I know.
You have a Google sheet of all your shows you've ever played?
Oh, I definitely have a sheet of this. Okay, yeah, I have a. I have. Well, I was looking at Facebook to see. See, are you the kind of person who also is like once you think about something and where it is and like trying to remember, like it'll kill you otherwise?
Yes, last night I was watching a basketball game with my dad, and like it was like halftime, and all of a sudden I was like, "What was that one song where that girl was yodeling that Pitchfork put out liked back in like 2014?" Then I was like, "I have to find this out," and I could not find it. It took me so long. I finally found it.
What was it?
I saved it to a playlist. It was Ginny Haval,
Oh, nice.
and it's like the last track on her album, "Innocence is Kinky." She's just like yodeling. It's just like crazy.
That's sick. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that the thing is, I remember I wrote we solidified that date while we were on the road, so I didn't add it to the sheet. Yeah, my God, oh my God, it's gonna kill me.
Maybe we can type in Dolly Spartans Nashville into Google. I'm gonna do that.
That's what I'm hoping for. Where the hell? And I think did I make a big tour thing? I don't remember. I do
Dolly
not
Spartans
remember.
Nashville is just gonna all be Dolly Parton. There's
It's
just no
full.
way.
Yeah, it's just no, it's not happening. But you never
Like
know.
Dolly Spartans can like exist as a name, but then when you type in Nashville too, it's all over. It's the one city that
Yeah,
you'll never be able to get Google results.
yeah.
Dolly
Jeez. All
Parton is
right.
from
Well,
like
it'll come
15
back to
minutes from
me.
here. She's like right down the road. She's everywhere
Dude, I
here.
wonder if she played the. I wonder if she played the show that we. She played the place we played.
Maybe everybody's got like stories about her around here. Like my teacher told me that she was like outside, and then Dolly Parton just like walked by and was like, "You're gonna freeze your butt off if you don't put a jacket on." And she was like, "What the heck?" It's Dolly Parton.
That's terrific. That's like damn, I love that. I know my friend has a story about a time he was like skateboarding or something and he like didn't stop himself in time and so someone like grabbed him by the shirt and pulled him off the skateboard and the skateboard went into the went in the traffic and like a truck ran over it and you know who it
Whoa,
was? It was fucking Paul Stanley from Kiss.
dude, what? That's
I know.
crazy. Oh my gosh, that's
Imagine
insane.
being saved by Paul Stanley. Have
Whoa,
you had
dude.
any crazy run-ins in
The
celebrity
only
encounters?
my craziest like thing like that is a little bit different because I was going to see this band play, so like it wasn't like totally random, but I really wanted to go see Brad Oberhofer.
Oh
You know
yeah,
Oberhofer. I like always loved his music, and I was like 17, and I like commented on the Instagram for the Nashville show, and I was like, man, I wish I could be there, but I'm only 17. And I was like doing my homework like at home, like with my family, and I'm just like sitting there. And
yeah,
listen, it's like Brad Oberhofer replied to your comment, and he was like, meet me by my van in 15. And I was like, what the? And then I was like, yo, I gotta go. And so I drove, and like I live in the suburbs, so it took me like 25 minutes to get there. And then when I got there, like I heard the first song start, and I was like, no. And I tried to show like the door guy. I was like, Brad said I can come. And they were like, we don't care. You cannot be here. So I was just like standing like the parking lot's like behind the venue. So I was just like standing in the back, just like listening to this like really muffled, all my favorite songs being played. I was like, I guess I'll just like listen from here. And then it was like the second to last song, and like the door kicked open, and Brad was like playing a wireless guitar, and he was like playing the set, and he like looked at me, he's like, "You trying to get in here?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, I am." And he's like, "Come on," and then he like the waters like cleared for him as he went back to the stage, and I just like followed behind him and then like stood on the front row for the rest of the set. I was
Oh
like,
my
I don't
god,
know
that's
if
awesome.
I don't know if you like remembered me or if you were just being crazy, but he just like was perfect. He just like I was just there still waiting by this van, and he was just like, "Come on in."
Oh my god.
Yeah,
What
it
a
changed my life.
also like what a message to get. Like come to my van in 15 minutes.
Yeah, right. I know, like that is crazy that he thought I would be able to do that, but I
I
wish
love
I
it.
could have. But I still got to hug him and got to see a song, and the whole crowd just thought I was like sent. They were just so confused because he just opened the door for me and led me in.
Oh my god.
It's a hero moment. He was my hero at the time too, so it was just such a big thing for me.
I remember I listened to a few songs and I really liked them. I never got super into him, but I remember really liking him. That was like I'm trying to think who I was into. I don't know. I think back then I listened to a lot of like I still do listen to them, but like Deer Hunter and stuff. And I got to meet
Yeah.
Bradford and Lockett and walk around with Lockett for a long time. It was just like,
Whoa.
I was like, what, 18 coming out of like, just really weird times. So then that happening was like the nicest, kind of most fulfilling thing ever.
That's
So
really cool,
that was
dude.
awesome.
Wow, that's
Um,
really special. Yeah, I would bet that being in New York, would like. I mean, Nashville. Obviously, there's a little bit of a different relationship with music, like growing up here. But New York, especially, I feel like. I mean, you have every opportunity to see like every one you would want to is like coming to town. More so New York than any other place. I would think maybe L.A., but probably New York.
yeah, most of the time, yeah. By the way, I just remembered it's Cafe Coco.
Oh, okay, yeah. So Cafe Coco is right behind Exit In. So that's what you were when you say there were like other bands playing
Yeah, there were like
nearby.
bigger bands playing.
Wow, Cafe Coco is a weird place to play.
It
Was
was
it weird?
strange. It was
Yeah.
bizarre. I had like a slight panic attack before the set. I was like, I'm tripped out here. And I was wearing this shirt, which is like one of those like rest stop like country sassy shirts, that you can
Yeah.
get. And I had like this truck hat that you remember Steven?
From your band, Steven?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Steven still has that. I was just like decked out in this weird ass like fit with cowboy boots and stuff because I was like really leaning into the bit at that time. And um yeah, I don't know. I remember like sitting there in the van like before this show started, before anyone started. I was like, I need to like just deep breathe. Like I don't know. Something
Yeah.
about it was really just a lot to take in. But then once the show actually started, it was really great.
It's a cramped little space. Like you're like low ceilings. Like there's not really. It's just like it's a weird place. And sometimes the lighting, they like don't even turn the lights off. And you're just like, I'm playing. I'm just like playing in the corner of a coffee shop right here. But the
Yeah,
bands that play, like they book like a ton of like metal and stuff. So it's just very,
really.
and it's like the only 24/7 coffee shop. So I mean, like the freaks, and I mean that in the most supportive way. But like all the weirdos are there. You know what I mean? Like everybody's a weirdo in Nashville is
You
hanging
mean
out
the
at Cafe Coco.
characters?
Yeah, just every oddball, everyone who plays chess or has a hookah or whatever it is, reads existential books. It's just like your classic like '90s weirdo like coffee shop with like everyone who makes the city special is like hanging out there.
Yeah.
So it's a great
Um,
place to be.
my God, it was really wild. I was
Yeah,
gonna ask you. So, like, I mean, because obviously I can relate to the idea that touring, especially for you, I feel like you're such a vital presence. Like when like out of anyone I think I've seen play live, like no one has had more presence and energy I think than you. And I'm talking like big bands too. Like
dude,
legitimately
thank you.
just the amount of joy. Like people, my friends still bring you up all the time. Like
No way.
people who were at that show that I don't even know like will DM me and be like, what's the info on that Freeze guy? Like, where can I hear his music? And I just direct them to your music and stuff.
Dude,
Um,
that's so cool.
yeah, you made a big impression here, and rightfully so. You were amazing. But what I was gonna say was, obviously it's kind of like a lifeblood thing, like life force kind of thing for you touring. So how have you navigated this time outside of like not being able to do that?
Yeah, well, it's been really sad. Like, it's been the first, probably like first time I've experienced like a really long season of like being sad.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like, I don't know, right out of high school, I started like playing a lot. Actually, I went to college for a little bit, but I was still like booking shows all the time, and then eventually booking tours, and then eventually dropped out. And I feel like I'm on the flip side of this like super high that I had for years, where it's like I realized pretty quickly, like at a pretty young age, what I wanted to do, and like, you know, the older I get, the more I realize that was pretty rare because so many of my friends like still have no idea what they want to do, and
Mm-hmm.
the fact that I was like, yep, this is it, is very like driven and just like one track, like. But then now it's like now losing that, it was like, whoa, I had all my eggs in that basket, and like yeah, it's just hard. Like I don't know how really to do it. Like so, at first I was pretty, I was like, I came home from that. We were on tour when COVID happened, and I came home from that tour, and I was pretty optimistic. I was like, whatever, I'm gonna just take some time to do some stuff. But then I didn't account for the fact that like I would be uninspired or like not able to function at a high capacity. So I've just never really
Yeah.
reckoned with that the way I've had to now. Like I've never really felt like depressed in a way where you like literally like that feeling of just like I know what I need to do, I just can't do it. It's like so it's like I'm but I am like I've tried to do the 180. Like I've tried just like making like I'm just like making stuff and
Mm.
making like I'm like making music at home like on Logic for the first time and like making like this show and like stuff like this and making TikToks and stuff.
Oh,
And
you're
so
making you're
there's
on TikTok?
yeah, are you on TikTok?
I like have like a very small account that I don't actually use for anything. I made it back when it was, you remember when it was Musically?
Yeah.
And so I made a bunch of like videos on there just kind of as a joke, and then like I didn't realize TikTok was going to like be the thing, and then
Right.
like, a big comeback and whatever. Um so now it's like a thing, and I don't really, I just let people send me stuff on it. Like my friends
Yeah.
will send me videos and that's it, but I'm going to follow you.
Please do, man. Please do. I'm trying to do like that and this and like YouTube and everything and I don't know, like it's it's hard. Like I've never known how to grow your music without touring. Like I've never reconciled with a world like cuz some artists that's all they do. Like I have friends who like are just as much a musician and in the music industry as me, but they're like, oh, I'm like, they do it differently. They're like, oh, I like promote this and make this YouTube video. I'm gonna advertise this on Facebook, and I'm like,
Yeah, I
oh,
mean, there are
I just
people
tour.
who really, there are people who just really like think at that mindset and are able to like do the business side, and that's not really me. Um,
Yeah.
I yeah, I can relate really hard to kind of feeling the sudden like lack of inspiration or motivation. I mean, from an early age, I kind of also realized like I was like, all right, music in whatever capacity, this is like the thing I want to do. And then once I figured out I wanted to write songs and do this and that, I was like, okay, well, this is what I want to do, right? And I think like the more time I've been left to my devices and like not constantly moving, I think the more I'm like, is this all I wanted to do? Did I want to do more? Like what do I want? And like it's, I don't know if you grapple with that like like kind of, not reckoning, what's the word? Like I don't know if you grapple with that kind of like struggle of not knowing whether or not you're 100% in it or not. I
Hmm.
think I am, but sometimes it's easy to get very discouraged, I guess, when
Yeah.
literally everything is shut down.
Right.
Um
Totally.
yeah, I don't know. I don't, I've been trying to record. I've been actually doing a lot more than I thought. Starting like at the end of 2019, I started teaching at School of Rock,
Cool.
which was really
Nice.
cool, and I actually think you'd be awesome. I mean, I know they have it in Nashville.
Yeah.
Um I really think you'd be great at it, just as a way to make, you know, So I mean, like, interact with kids who want to learn music, and like, it's I don't want to sound like preachy or over like, I don't want to sound like overly like savory, but it is there's something really cool in seeing these kids kind of going through that same period of really getting interested in music that you went through, and knowing how you felt at the time,
Yeah.
and then kind of guiding them on that, or helping them on that journey. Most of them really do, a lot of the work themselves, but that's
Right.
been one of the fun things. I've been doing that since then, and thankfully I've been able to keep that job and just do it remote. Um,
That's cool.
yeah.
That's awesome.
I also teach privately now, which is a relatively new endeavor, but it's been really cool. It's like kind of like people our
Really?
age, maybe a little older, or maybe, and that's been really cool because that's another form of like, all right, well, these are people who like are fast learners. They're motivating themselves. I feel like sometimes with the kids at School of Rock, sometimes the parents can be motivated, like they're like kind of like,
Right.
but you can tell when like who's who. Thankfully, I think all my kids are really like into it, so it's nice. I'm really lucky. But
Yeah. That is cool, man. That's awesome. Wait, do you teach guitar
I
privately?
teach
You say you teach
guitar, I
privately?
teach piano, I teach a bit of bass, and I'm teaching voice, which I feel a little bit like an imposter doing, because I think like, I don't know. It's so weird to teach voice, especially. I don't know if you like,
Right.
just explaining what your body is supposed to be doing and feeling when you're singing is like the biggest trip. I don't know.
Totally. Yeah, right. It's like and then also but like and then when when you're just like an artist too, it's like none of those rules really apply when you're like just they're like, the people they listen to probably don't follow the singing rules, at least that I was taught when I took voice lessons or did like choir in school. So it's like you're almost learning the rules to break them,
Yeah,
or
it's
in some
true. Or
ways.
just like kind of have a general guideline. I think it's hard to do that in the moment. I think it's hard to really be aware, because then you're taking yourself away. You're taking a part of yourself away from actually performing, if that makes any sense. I mean, there are settings where it's like, all right, well, like classical singing, obviously you need to know technique, but like,
Hmm.
you're gonna tell me that in the middle of like a really heated performance, you're playing, and you're thinking, oh, I better be, taking low breaths from my diaphragm, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have a hard time
Totally.
picking it. I think it kind of psychs you out. Actually, I don't know if that's your experience, but it psychs me out when I think about technique when I'm singing, because then I'm like, well, now I'm like hesitating in the song, and you can hear it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Right. I've my like relationship with singing like on tour is that I will like always lose my voice at the beginning of a
Mm-hmm.
tour. I always go too hard in the paint, and then like by day three, I'm like, well, I'm screwed. I don't have a voice anymore. And then I have to like, I'm not sure. It's like some sort of combination of either my vocal cords just like get used to it. Like I think there is some sort of, I don't know. You're a vocal teacher, maybe you know more, but I think you do kind of like get used to it a little bit. But then also I learned how to like I learned I'm like, if I go for that note right now, like in my head, I just know like, don't do that. Like you have to sing again tomorrow. Like don't scream right here. It's like contain yourself a little bit or know your boundaries.
Yeah, that's so real. That is so real. What used to happen was like literally like 10 minutes into any show when I first started doing it, I would lose my voice entirely, and it would sound terrible. And then over the years, I would get better. I mean, obviously, the more you do it, the more you get better. I mean, because it is a muscle. There is kind of like a system, that needs to be trained and exercised and whatever. Um, yeah, I think what happens to me though is whenever I go on tour at some point or another, I actually, barring the March tour that we did with when we played Nashville and Knoxville and all those, um, I always get a cold. I always get sick.
Right, dude. Yeah.
Always.
What's up with that? That
I don't
happens to me
know.
too. Is that just like because you're outside so much, or is it because it's like you're changing different like um locations like within the whole earth? Like since traveling to different climates, it like maybe it affects your body in certain ways.
I think that's part of it. I'm sure there's like stress has to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also just have a terrible immune system. Like, really, just I somehow, like, during I mean, I guess obviously because we're all being extra careful. Like I wear two masks and stuff. Like
Mm.
um I haven't gotten like a cold or anything.
Wow.
And it's like, wow, this makes me really think, like especially New York, how much like we don't take into account like germs and like crowded spaces and whatever. I don't know.
Right, right.
Makes you think because I used to get sick like every 2 months or something. It was pretty
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, me and my two friends who are like I guess in my circle or whatever, like we like work out in his garage and stuff. Like we're like together in this,
Hmm.
and none of us have gotten COVID, which has been really I feel like we're just straight up lucky. Like I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, how has it been in Nashville as a whole? Like, I mean, I'm assuming it hasn't been great, but
Yeah, Tennessee's been like the worst state or whatever. Like we keep getting shamed as being like the worst state of all when it comes to COVID. So I don't. I think we're just the perfect mixture of like a really big touring cap, like tourism spot,
mm,
mixed with like the type of tourism that comes here is like just the kind of tourism that would totally denies COVID. And then on top of that, it's
oh
just like
god,
really populated and entertainment. I don't know. It's just whatever we are, we're just the perfect location and type of city to just like I think get it really bad. Fortunately, most of the people in my circle have been okay. Like, I don't know anyone immediately close who's like passed away from it or anything, but
mm,
but definitely like a friend of a friend or like older people like my dad's like friend at church or something. Like people are like it's like tangibly here and like
god, yeah,
it's scary for sure. I live right next door to my grandparents and I haven't seen them the whole time. It's just so sad because they're like older. I definitely want to be with them
right,
as much as I can. It's like just a huge bummer that my like I can't see my like 91-year-old granddad. You know what I mean?
of course.
But he's getting the vaccine in like a few weeks, so things are looking up. And
Oh, awesome.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, right. But yeah, things are good. Still been able to record because we record at Johnny and Bryce's like the Future Crib house. So
Hmm.
like still been able to record some songs and really just been hanging out here with my family, which is nice getting to be with my parents. And my sister moved back in too because she was moving back to Nashville after she like got her grad degree. So the fam's here and it's fun, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's comfy. It regarding what you were talking about earlier about like not being like being somewhat unsure, like finding some weird like second wave of like uncertainty with music. I think that like I'm experiencing that in a certain way. Like I definitely know I still want to do music, but it's like I, for me, it's reckoning with the fact that like what I wanted to do, like even in high school, which was not that long ago, um, is a completely different world than what I'm doing. And it's not just because I'm like less famous than I thought I was going to be or something like that, but it's like what I thought was being a musician when I was like in high school meant like making a record every 2 to 3 years and like touring. And like I had this expectation that you could like make enough money off of that to like live. You know what I mean? So in my head, it was just like I'd be this person who's like, oh, I gotta work on my next album. And then I'd be like, well, time to go on tour. And it's like very just like made a lot of sense. It's like, oh, I could do interviews too. Like that'd be fun. I like but then
Okay, yeah.
now it's like it's not even it's just that, like the actual thing of what it means to be a musician has changed in so many ways. Like because there's like actually no money in it at all, which is fine, but it means that we all have to do all these other things, and then we're all like stressed out about like social media and stuff. And like social media is okay, but it's just
It's not.
frustrating. It's
It's
just
not
like,
okay.
well, there are things I like about it. Or like it's cool to like see my friends do stuff, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It's
of
like
course.
it's gross, and it's like I never they all the like all of the internet and all these like apps and developers they try to incentivize it's like this thing that like it like is attractive to you as an independent artist. It's like, oh, like you can see your analytics and like do better and stuff, but then it's just a death trap. Like you just I don't know, I never wanted to care about all that. It's just
Yeah.
it's
It's a
exhausting.
it's a it's a bleak existence when you have to pay for listeners. Like, isn't that what Spotify is doing now? Like, you have to pay to do some sort of shit. I didn't really read the
Yeah.
article because I just was like, I saw Spotify, I saw the headline, I was like, I'm not, I have to. Like, it just like gets so under my skin. Just all the ways that music feels I just don't. Maybe it's partly that I don't like to feel rushed, and maybe that's what the way that the music industry moves now is so fast. But
Right.
it just all feels really like, okay, algorithm this, algorithm that, and like, not to sound like a crotchety old man, but like it just is really, it sucks. I don't know.
Right.
And the fact that no one is making money, even the ones who are doing well aren't making shit off of the streams that they get. Like, it's like, you know,
Totally.
all power to the consumer. I get it, like that they want music to be accessible to people, but like, I don't know. It's just these are people's livelihoods, and it's like, this art is a thing of passion, and it's hard to see that passion be like diluted by all the business aspects of things. You know?
Totally. Totally. Yes. Yeah. I totally agree. I you think about all your heroes like from any other time period, it's like Bob Dylan would have like never made it like nowadays. Like it would have he would have because the whoever what makes Bob Dylan so special is like that he would have hate like he I mean he's still alive. It's not but like, if he was young now, I really doubt that he would have been like really into like influencer culture or even like posting on Instagram at all. He probably would have hated it. And it was he those artists back then had such a separation where they just did the art and it's cool. And like a lot of people also got screwed over by their managers and by labels telling them what to do. So I get that there was like definitely a very uh prevalent like negative side to like having less control. But now we have all the control, but it's in some ways, but in other ways it's like exhausting and
Well, I think it was just different because, it wasn't as in your face. Like, if you wanted to listen to a record, you had to go get the record. You had to
yeah,
tune in, you had to actively engage. Like, now it's just everyone's doing different content. It's always going to be a competition over who can get their little song in.
totally right. It's yeah, and yeah, exactly. And when we talk about like being a musician now, it's like my idea of what it was back then was like you made the art and you toured off of it. And there were obviously everyone had their own relationship with how much they toured and how much music they made and stuff. But now it's like it seems like maybe I was just ignorant, but it seems like there was a lot just fewer avenues, and now it's like you could like be someone who like does Twitch streams or like YouTube does this or you can put all there's so many different like avenues to where you can take your music now and like different like types of art and yeah like everyone's doing like you said like their own thing. It's like it's just a lot more complicated and
Doing their Minecraft set.
yeah doing their Minecraft set and on top of that the fact that there's just like no money in it does make it feels sometimes just feels devastatingly difficult and it's not always and when I do have touring I definitely didn't feel that way. I definitely felt like touring was like this just beacon of light that like transcended all of that to me but now that I'm like can't tour and I've been trying to like really reckon with like the internet and what it means to like be a musician, a modern musician, I do find it kind of bleak and like I haven't quite figured out my relationship with it. Just
Yeah.
the long version of answering your first question, which was how is it going with like music and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you. And I want to know more about like what you've been like doing in Logic and stuff. But I just want to say like there is this like, I don't know, maybe I don't know if this is the right term. I keep saying that not to sound like, or I don't know if this is the right term, but I think there's a cognitive dissonance because on the one hand it's like, or I guess that just comes about when you make the thing you love your career path.
Right, yeah.
Because it's like, all
Totally.
right, well, why am I stressed about making money? Like, am I just, I thought I was doing this just for me because I don't care, about all that stuff. I'm doing it for me. But then it's like, it's like, yes, but also, if this is what you want to do, you have to, indulge in the whole thing. It's very weird. I'm a very slow moving person.
Right.
I take way too long on records. I you know I know a lot of people who just like will throw stuff out and out and out and just constantly come up with ideas. I'm like, I don't know how you do this. Like, or
Right.
people just constantly like, for instance, I don't know how you used to tour a lot and like a lot, and it was like genuinely inspiring. And I just like literally had no idea how you had like the stamina to do that. You know?
Dude, yeah. Well, before I toured so much, I used to be one of those people with music. Like I would put out music all the time, like in high school and stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
and then it kind of like flipped. Like when I started touring, I got really into touring and I found it really hard. Like music went from something that I felt like I could do really quickly to like since about 2016, it's been like last like 5 years, it's been like slower. Like I don't,
Hmm.
and I don't really know why. It's like maybe it's just because I felt like there were more eyes on me, but I feel like a lot of pressure. Like it's hard for me to break through and be like, I envy people who are like really prolific, and maybe one day I'll be that again. But as of now, it's just very takes a long time to make music, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So like, so what is your like writing process like? How is it? Has it changed in, not only in the years since you've really focused more on touring, but also like especially now that we're all cooped up, you know?
Yeah. Well, the all of the singles I've put out, and like I've got a few more that I've done too that are like I've recorded with like Johnny and Bryce, like starting with Wisteria. Those are all tracked to tape. So that was kind of me trying to make a project, make music that one was just the kind of music I want to make, 60s feel, this like pop, 60s pop kind of thing. But also
Mhm.
like I was attracted to like recording it to tape and stuff because I know that I tour so much. So I wanted to create music that represented the tour, you know, like this is what you hear on the record and what you're going to hear live, like making those things a little bit more similar. Because the album
Like
before
capturing
that,
energy or like arrangement wise?
both like the fact that it was like the songs are like two guitars, bass, and drums, and maybe keys. It's like we can literally do that on a stage. Whereas the album before that, like the one I did in 2017, had like brass and strings and stuff, and it was just like I realized that I couldn't do any of that live. So, and there is something to be said about you can have a record that sounds a certain way and go live, but I wanted those to be a little bit more similar. But now I'm kind of after being home for a year, I've just been like messing with like auto tune and beats and stuff, and I'm just like,
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know, I don't know what it's gonna, I don't know what it's gonna be like, but I'm having fun, just like making more like poppy, just like pop music, less rock, just
That's
more.
awesome.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's
I
liberating.
Yeah, I've been working on some not my own. I've been working on other people's like rap projects like instrumentally. Like I've come up with some beats for some rappers and
Cool.
played some instruments and stuff, which is cool. And that's been really liberating just first of all to get out of that like indie rock bubble and then
Totally.
also just cuz it's really it actually I didn't realize how much I mean, I think that rap production is some of the most creative out there, to be honest. Like I think it
Yeah,
really is just the most forward thinking stuff right now.
I
Um
totally agree.
and just to like be like, okay, well, I can analyze what works about this and then kind of mess around with it too. It just I don't know, it's like playing with all these things. It's just a lot of fun. I don't know. So I feel you. Like logic making beats and instrumentals and anything is really liberating. I have a very hard time usually just allowing myself to write whatever comes. I think a lot of the time I'm like, well, this has to be really good. It has to be really good by my like unhealthy standard, or it has to be really,
Yeah,
I don't know. So then I stop halfway through anything and I just, throw it out or lock it away and then move on to the next idea.
right.
The really nice thing about 2019 that I was hoping would continue onward was I like had written like 3 songs that I really was like, these are some of my favorite songs I've done or something like that.
Wow.
Um, and so like basically, I don't know. So you've been recording. I actually recorded some stuff to tape too. I am working on an
Really?
EP. I'm working on an EP. Hopefully it'll be out this year. I mean, it will be, but
Yeah.
like I said, I'm slow as molasses. Um, but yeah, I am working. It's like 4 songs that I'm really, really happy with. I think they're a bit different than the stuff that we've done before. I mean, it's all still guitar, rock, pop, indie rock music, but it's like, I don't know. I used a lot more stuff. Like this was my first time recording with like string players and whatnot. So I
Yeah,
was
right.
really excited
Wow, that's
about it.
cool.
But I
Um,
started before the pandemic, not actually during. We just kind of kept mixing throughout the pandemic carefully.
and that's like so that's like a set of songs you feel like are already like there with each other. Like you're not writing those anymore. Like that's a piece, a project that's like beyond that phase and cohesive in
Yeah.
that sense.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I think the songs themselves sound pretty different from each other. And I don't know. I don't. I'm usually very like self conscious of that. I'm like, oh well, I don't want these to be too different or whatever. But I don't know. I find that there's some sort of emotional through line that I am really. I don't know. I connect to them much more than the stuff I've written as of yet. I mean, save for a handful of songs that I haven't put out yet. Just something about this set of songs makes me feel really like, all right, this is actually capturing where I'm at now. One of them is
Yeah,
from a few years ago. One of them is from like maybe 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. And it was the one that I honestly did not expect to record it. But I was like, this would fit. It feels like a closing thing. So it's really
that's
different,
cool.
which I'm a little like I feel a little nervous about, but not that nervous. I just think it really accurately represents like I don't know, the stuff I think about and go through and whatever. I don't know.
Right.
Just a narcissistic artist thoughts.
Whatever, man. Are you do you have a place like in your house in New York where you can like record stuff? Like you said you record on Logic, like is that at home?
Yeah, so I record stuff at home, but that's mostly like demos and stuff because I don't have like a place for a drum kit or anything. So we tracked all the stuff. We tracked it at a couple places. My friends Julian and Carlos of the band Ava Luna, they run a studio called Gravesend. It's like in Brooklyn. Uh, it's really nice. It's really cool. They have this like
Wow,
oscilloscope thing that's really neat.
that's cool.
And then a lot of the times for a good bunch of the record, my friend Henry and I would go up, or I'd work with my friend Oliver up there at this place called Holy Fang, which is like an hour and a half out of the city, an hour out of the city, maybe two. It's in a place called Hopewell Junction, and it's like part. First of all, it's like a house, right? But it's also part recording studio, part animal sanctuary.
Holy moly,
Yeah,
what?
no, so it's awesome. There's like
Dude.
I don't want to count this wrong. There's like 5 or 6 dogs. There are three
Wow,
pigs. There's like there was a horse. I don't know if there's still a horse. I think there is. There's dark goats. There's a bird. There's like a whole bunch of cats. Like it's literally like I don't know. It's just so nice and
that's really cool,
yeah.
man.
We've all become really close up there. So I would go back and forth there very carefully, just because it's a small town, and I think everything's pretty distant. So we haven't had to worry too much about
Yeah,
um, you know, getting sick.
that's good. That's cool. Well, I'm excited to hear that. You for those listening who don't know, you've put out with Dolly Spartans, at least to my knowledge, two collections of songs, right? There's one in 2014 and one in 2017. And they're
Yeah.
both like I think 6 songs and 5 songs, right?
Yes.
So they're like these like really like I mean they're like years apart from each other. They're these like packages of songs. So it sounds like you're like creating like a third like group of like very like intentionally well put together songs, which
I
is
never
cool.
thought about it that way. That's pretty cool. That's Yeah, that sounds about right actually. I don't know because I mean, I don't know how you view like the songs on your work, like cuz I feel like well, how far apart like as far as like your last releases like I don't know, how do you feel like they connect?
Yeah, they everything since so I put out that album in 2017. That was my last like collection as well. And then all of them since then have been like starting with Stereo, which came out in 2019. So I'm still working on. I'm gonna eventually patch it like it's an album, but it's
Mhm.
gonna be crazy because like the songs will have come out 2 years apart from each other. But with COVID and I don't know just the way the internet works now, I feel like it's gonna be okay. But I think they're gonna be cohesive just because they're all tracked to tape and with the same band. Uh, so it should feel cohesive and yeah, like every time I had like I guess one in 2015, the one in 2017, then this one I'm working on as well. So it's kind of similar to your timeline where
Yeah.
but like they've all been very separate projects. I've been reckoning with like what it would mean to not think as much like that. Like I have really been doing the singles now, even though they're leading to an album. Then I'm thinking like in the future even more just like I don't know, doing more like collaborative stuff and trying to be a little bit less uh album oriented or like project oriented and more just like song oriented. Because I feel like that could be healthier for me and could be like more of like the pace of what the industry is right now. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't I haven't fully crossed that bridge, but that's kind of why I've been putting out all the songs as singles instead of like releasing it as a group. It's just because I figured I'd try that out since it seems like what everyone is doing, and I never want to like I don't know, I don't want to like not do something if I should. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's hard to know what you're holding on to. Like am I behaving a certain way because I want to, or am I being like am I not willing to adapt? I don't know. I think about that kind of stuff all the time, you know?
Yeah, I
I'm like,
feel
should
that.
I be like I felt the way about TikTok for a long time. I talked about this on the show before where I was like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, wait, do I not want to do that because I actually just don't? Or am I just like not willing to adapt or like because I look at like all my favorite artists and how they kept making relevant music throughout decades. And I'm like, I wonder what that I want to talk to them and be like, what does that mean? Like, how do you continue to grow when you're like 45? Like, how are you still like making music that's like relevant at all? Or I just I don't know. I just wonder how art and culture, how you continue that relationship, especially when you're like older and
Yeah,
maybe
there's a
no longer are as
big
plugged in.
history.
Yeah.
It's weird because I think a lot of the times the people who do the best in terms of like getting older and tuning in and like not tuning in and like staying relevant is just not they don't really think like they kind of active not that they actively oppose it but they just don't think about it, which I think is hard for us who
Yeah.
grow up with constant like media barrage to do.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that they were growing up with the same amount of like, you know, we just have technology everywhere and like again not to sound like a crotchety old man, but it really is a thing that it affects your psychology and your view of
It
the world and
does.
your mentality, that it's like, all right, well, everything I do has to constantly be relevant and fit into this window of time, and I have to be ready for the next window of time. And you know,
Yeah.
the EP that I'm working on actually started out, I was going to do exactly, I was like in 2019, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put out this song, and then I'm going to put out this song. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to say, throw
Hmm.
caution to the wind, fuck it, let's just have it out there. And
Yeah.
then the kind of the obsessive part of me got a hold of me, and I don't know. There's something I still like. I mean, probably viewing it in terms of songs is definitely like a healthier approach, just because I think you're putting less pressure on yourself. I mean, that's been my experience, but there is something really nice about seeing the way like a group of songs will come together in a way that you didn't expect them to.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't think there's a wrong way. I think that like as far as the willing to adapt, like sure, I try to adapt when I can. I try. I mean, I use it. I try to post Instagram stuff at an ideal time. I mean, my stories are just random bullshit, but or like my stories are either like things I think like I want to share for like issues and information, or it's just me like taking a picture of like a Monster Energy car or whatever the hell, like
Yeah, totally.
I definitely am not, good with content in that sense. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know. Like in terms of adapting, it's really weird because once like obviously as musicians we have to adapt, but like do we? I don't know. That sounds very
Right.
douchey, but like do we
No.
have to? Because what once we adapt to the new thing, there will be something else. Like the things
Right.
that were popular like a year ago, are not like I'm trying to think of a meme from a year ago, like I
Yeah.
literally can't. And I
Yeah.
think now our view of time is so different. It's just like the every industry is just really like I don't know. I think it's good to take one's time. It's
Yeah,
when I'm or
I
at
think
least it's
so
what I'm
too.
telling myself.
Right. Well, and also it's like art is countercultural. I mean, the whole point of art is that it influences culture. Like culture isn't supposed to always shape art. That's part of what makes an artist is that you view culture and you don't totally engage with it like in a like a puppy. You're not just like ready to like do whatever you have to do, like wagging your tail. It's like you're supposed to like we kind of make the rules as artists, which is scary, but so sometimes going against the grain is like exactly the thing that culture needs is like icons who are like not totally just like playing this like game. You know what I mean? And furthermore, like I think about like the Beach Boys, who are my favorite band.
Yep, I was gonna
Um,
talk to you about the Beach Boys. They're my favorite too.
oh, dude, wait,
We
really?
Yeah, I remember when we did the Thunderstruck thing. You asked me what my favorite pre-Pet Sounds album was, and I either said Summer Days and Summer Nights or Beach Boys Today.
Dude, yes, those two are amazing. The both the ones that were both right before Pet Sounds. They're really
Yeah,
gold, man. They're really gold. Like
they're
people, oh my
beautiful.
gosh, yeah, it's like such good pop music. And man, Brian, what I was gonna say is in the when he's, I'm sure you've seen that video of them accepting the Rock and Roll Hall of
Oh
Fame
my god. Oh my
thing.
god.
But Brian, Brian's speech is really sweet, and Mike's is obviously ridiculous. And then
He's like, I like to see the mop tops. Do I get around?
yeah, right. And then Bob Dylan gets up and he's like, thank you for not mentioning me. Uh,
Yeah.
but Brian in his speech at one point he's like the Beach Boys have gone, we're in style and out of style and back in style again. And it's like, man, that probably is crazy. Like to just be like singing a song like, about surf and safari, and then like that just becoming the lamest thing, like becoming so uncool.
Yeah.
And like it's like 72 and you're like, I can't believe I made that song. But then like the 80s come around, people are like, oh man, remember that song that you made? That was awesome. And it's like, oh yeah, that is cool. Like who could ever know? Like I don't know. It's just the way that culture changes, and all you can do is just like keep being you, because it'll
Yeah.
catch up to you eventually. And like I don't know, it's better to just be countercultural, I think, in so many ways.
Definitely. I think there's an element of, I mean, I don't know if you noticed this. I mean, there is. I mean, even when you mentioned that, like when there was like a return in the '80s and whatever, to like surfing, safari, and all that. But like, I don't know. What I notice, I think, is there's a lot of nostalgia that fuels a lot these days. I think that
Hmm.
because the present is so bleak and has been for a while, like our generation and maybe the one before it has been more nostalgic and looking back towards like the 90s or even the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you see that in the visuals and in the sound and in like certain ways that we market things, and I think it all comes from this fear of the unknown. It's like because now record labels are so like there is no real surefire thing that like you'll have a backing and you'll be able to take risks. It's like, you know are we sticking it safe because of a fear of the unknown that I think
Right.
certain people don't have, like all the, I think Brian Wilson, especially like when he made Pet Sounds, he was definitely not like, I don't think he was afraid. I mean, he was definitely like nervous from, Murray and all those people,
Right.
but then you see Smile and like he starts out with this like, I'm gonna make this insane thing, but then the fear and the unknown kicks in, right? Because he's like, I have all this music, how the hell am I gonna put this together? And then
Yeah.
like no one actually wants to put it together. So it really is debilitating, even back then when it was, when Brian Wilson had millions of dollars of backing behind him. It's a thing that I think artists constantly have to struggle with, or at least people in general. Like even if you're starting a new job, or if you're, whatever you're doing, if you're moving somewhere new, or I don't know. I just been thinking a
Yeah.
lot about that. It's like, how much am I stopping myself because I'm afraid to find out the answer and the result, or is it
Hmm.
because I just don't think it's like a good idea?
Yeah, right. That's really interesting. Someone like our hero Brian, in terms of everything we were just talking about, it's like he was excited to create music because he loves music so much. He wasn't like, I don't think that he was really could have cared less about how Smile was going to impact, or like how cool it was going to be, or how relevant it was going to be. He was so focused on just making, because like Pet Sounds was not very successful, and Smile, I mean, if it had come out, I think people, I mean, their minds would have been blown. I can't
I
imagine
can't
it would have
tell. I
been
was thinking about that. I was like, would they have loved it or would they have hated it? Like I
right.
don't know. I think the thing about Smile too is that like, I mean, he was surrounded by a lot of like cool counterculture people, so there was definitely kind of like an intellectual like insecurity thing there, but it
Hmm.
manifested in this way that he really just went headfirst into the ideas and like didn't let it really stop him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
which is the important thing. I was gonna ask you actually. So we've talked about pre-pet sounds. What about post smile favorite album?
Oh man. Well, so I think everything um obviously like I guess you have a pretty there's a shorter window of like the records they made right after that. Wild Honey and like 2020 and like Friends and what else is there? There's the white one where they're like
Oh,
with their
Sunflower.
kids. Yes, yeah, Sunflower. Oh man, like all of those are really good. Like that spurt they had, oh, and like Smiley Smile, like right after they made Smile, like there's a really long span. I think my favorite is probably Friends. It's just
Yeah,
like very, very, very cool.
yeah.
It's just well, I don't even know how to describe that record. It's just so sweet and peaceful.
It is really just so peaceful and like happy and like he's like, "Yo, we've been friends forever," you know. Like he's like,
Yeah,
"That's like thanks to you," you know. And then like he sings a song about doing nothing and here come to my address,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
And then like honestly, every song on that album I love, you know. That's just a really it's like a thing where it like I don't know. It makes me sad to think about the myth of like, oh, he just completely gave up because it's like so clear that he didn't, you know.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
I totally agree. Yeah, there was I've said before, like once you reach everything past Smile, you maybe Friends is a little bit of an exception. That one feels more, but even so, in Friends, like it almost helps you to like have the Wikipedia article pulled up, like when you're listening to those records to see like who wrote each one, because like
yeah,
you can listen to a record and just be kind of baffled. You're like, wait, what's going on in this record? And then it's like, oh,
yeah,
well, they let Al write this one, and he went out on this, or like this is Mike with like some other guy. It's like,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
you're like,
Or
oh, this one's
Dennis.
Brian. Like, yeah, it's just very like you almost need the context for those albums because you really do have like a group of artists who are like all kind of like stepping into their own shoes, and
Yeah,
like they're all trying to like fill in for Brian, and in some ways they really succeed. Like in some songs, and other times maybe not so much, which is kind of the glory of it. It's this beautiful mess.
yeah, it's true. And I really love Surfs Up too, like the album.
Oh yeah,
I mean, maybe with the exception of Student Demonstration Time. I mean, fuck that song. But no,
yeah.
like
What's going on
honestly,
with that song? What?
that song is just like the most like centrist conservative song about like student protests. It's like don't it's like something about like saying like you better watch out, people are insulting policemen's mothers and that's why the riot's going on. It's like really dumb, but the
Yeah,
rest of
right.
the album is just beautiful, like all the weird shit, like the song about feet, like what does it, take a load off your feet.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't go near the water, which I don't know if Brian even had involvement in that. And
Such
then
a just
like
beautifully sad song for like the Beach Boys, like for a band called the Beach Boys to write a
yeah,
song called "Don't Go Near the Water." It's like, man, that really hurts.
and then like the last few tracks, like Day in the Life of a Tree.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my god.
dude. Okay, one album while we're talking about this that you might be familiar with, but have you heard? Have you ever like dug in deep to, like Lucky Old Sun from 2008? Have you
I
ever heard?
listened to a little bit of it, but I'm not as familiar with it. I've seen, is that the one that he's like, yeah, I worked with Zoe Deschanel and she was really good and music was really good.
No, that's the one. That's the one with like a with a what do you call it? Like a pier on it.
Oh,
The
no
one
peer pressure.
Yeah, Pierre. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not as familiar with that one. This one is like, they put out the Smile, Brian Wilson Smile in 2004,
Yeah.
and Brian had this like high off of that, and next spend the next like 4 years. I don't know how much of those next 4 years, but put out in 2008, Lucky Old Son. It's like very cohesive. It's almost like to me, it's like a sequel to Smile, except like way cheesier. But
I love that.
it's just like Old Man Brian, and it's very heartfelt. It's got some of the sweetest music on it, man.
I have to listen to that again.
Yeah, please do. Give it a
Um,
chance.
speaking of which, you know what album I actually really love?
What album?
Um, Love You, Beach Boys Love You.
Oh yeah. That one's really like
It's the most
uh
batshit record.
yeah. I think Brian like kind of took more control over that one, right? He's
That
like,
was like his big Brian's back, like he's
yeah.
like, I'm writing all these songs. I'm on a I'm on a coke bender, like I'm writing this. You know, it's just the most weird. Like I read a Patti Smith like review of it. It's really cool actually. I'll send it
Interesting.
to you. But literally the opening part of that whole song was like really intense, like beating drum and synths, and then Carl just going, "Hey!" it's insane. I don't know. It's like the whole
Yeah,
album just has some really beautiful moments and really bizarre moments.
yeah, like ding dang or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That uh, they're like to me, they're the perfect like American band, and like no one could ever like. It's too late for anyone else to like take that because it's like the way they were able to like starting in '62, and the way that they've just like stumbled their way throughout pop culture like to this day. Like the fact that there's still like a Beach Boys and a Brian Wilson like tours happening. Like it's just the amount of like they have every single thing that like an American band could have of like success and like youth and then also like drugs and like death. Like they like the whole story. Like it's the most sad and beautiful story that like could ever happen. Like these three brothers, just the whole thing is just like so, and there's just so many time periods to their music. Like it's just this giant narrative happening
In
from
like
like
such a small
62.
span of time too, you know. I mean, you see that with a lot of bands. I mean, you can see that with the Beatles too. But it's like everyone was
Right.
growing up at an insane rate. You know, there's just the expectation to be making record after record. You know, really, you can see
Totally.
these people grow or like evolve or devolve in real time. You know, it's pretty wild.
It is extremely wild how from 62 to 69, just all those bands like culturally how they changed so quickly with obviously Beatles and Beach Boys being prime examples, but even like it's like every band like the Kinks or like the
Yeah, the
Zombies or
Kinks
just you pick
especially.
any
Yeah,
any band like CCR, it's just like putting out 3 records a year. It's just like or this obviously the Stones. It's just that time period to me is just an anomaly. I'm endlessly fascinated with how bands went from like clean cut Mercy beat, British Invasion, and California too to like the psychedelia. It's just a very very
yeah,
crazy time for pop music.
it really is. I mean, I don't know. Like I don't think we've seen that kind of like change across like a decade in a concentrated period of time. I think I mean the 70s come close. I mean there are a lot of them, but I don't know, like the 80s the aesthetic generally stays the same largely, or from what I
Right,
understand. I mean I'm probably overlooking a lot of stuff just cuz there's a whole lot of you can't really fully classify music. But the 60s like
right.
it's just like okay, you've gone from this really like clean thing tail end of the 50s like rock and roll, then you know it's like the Wizard of Oz when everything turns to color,
Right.
and then you go into the late '60s where everyone's like really raw and like scaling everything back, stripping it back to the essentials, and just being really
Yeah,
angry. It's pretty crazy.
totally.
I forgot I was gonna mention something about it.
I don't know.
Um, maybe I'll remember it. We'll keep going.
Well, there's something about like I think it also might have just been like technology and culture too. Like we're changing, we're also changing really quickly, and like since the '80s, like I mean, we can get better at recording pop music, but the last 40 years have been more of just like I mean, you have your vocals are about as good as they're gonna get. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can record infinite tracks. Like, once like prog, once like music was like, oh, we can lay down like this much, like maximalism and stuff. It's like we reached that point, and then now
Yeah,
it's like we're all just like in some sort of weird post progression, I guess. To me, it's like all you can have is culture keeps changing, but it's like a different thing now than like what growth could have been back then. You know?
it's funny. I really wonder how we're gonna view all the music from now. Like, I remember I used to think like up until maybe well, I don't know, maybe up until the mid 2010s or something. Like I was like, all right, the music of the 2000s, like it feels current still to me just because I grew up with it. And then
Right?
you like listen now, and it's like, oh, okay, like these were very specific trends of things, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just weird
totally.
to see how things change all the time. I mean, to go from like, yeah, I mean, the Beach Boys encapsulated, I think, better than most artists. Just like in a short period of time you go from like all right basic catchy simple surf pop songs to like these heartbreaking like ballads and arrangements to like avant-garde to like I don't give a fuck to and
Yeah.
then you somehow end somewhere else. Another actually I don't know how I feel about this album as a whole, but I really like this song um from from Carl and the Passions, So Tough.
Whoa.
What is it? You need a mess of help to stand alone.
I don't know that. I'm not familiar with that song. I've only
Oh,
listened
that
to that
song
album a
is
couple
great.
times.
That has one
Really?
of my favorite drum sounds, I think.
Whoa, okay. I'll write that
It's the
down,
it's the
dude.
opening song, and it's got a great piano part, and it's a Brian song, but he's not singing it,
Wow.
or he's maybe singing background, but
That's
you
cool,
know,
man. I'm gonna check
yeah,
this out. I've never given that album enough time. I think I was like so confused by the first time I heard it, and like the other weird like gar- guitar players and stuff. I was like, what is going on? Is this even the Beach Boys? It confused me.
yeah. After a while, you just gotta realize that the Beach Boys as an entity make no sense.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I did want to mention one thing while I'm thinking of it that I've been wanting to mention this whole time, which is that when I saw y'all play at Alphaville, y'all played like one of the most like well received like audiences. Like I rarely ever see a band who's like so loved by an audience as like y'all were that night. Like that, I genuinely mean that. It was like crazy. Like every time y'all were performing, like you were like playing Madison Square Garden, like the crowd was just like eating it up, and I felt like y'all were just could have like kept playing forever. It was crazy. It made me really really happy.
I think we were really lucky. Thank you. I don't know. I think we were really lucky. First of all, I knew a lot of supportive people there, but there were a bunch of people who I didn't know who showed up too, which was wild. I think that it was just a great night all in all. I mean, like every band, I think because I saw that they were going crazy over you and Future Crib. Like I said, people will still ask me about you guys, and I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, well, this is beyond deserved. Like, I'm glad that these people can see, this these gems from Nashville that are coming here to bless us with music, and that was just a really special night. I think just it was very positive. So I don't know if it
yeah.
necessarily had to do with us or if it had to do with just the night, but I'll take it.
I gotta say, you're being from New York, like I mean, I'm from Nashville. Like I don't know, like people always say stuff like this to me, so it's kind of weird that I'm saying this to you, but like I there's a ton of music here and it's very competitive and it's very saturated. And there's also a ton of like relevant culture here too. But the idea of playing in New York freaked me out, or Chicago or LA. I still have never played in LA, but when I played in New York, that show with you, I was really nervous. Also because I just felt like it was going to be a moment of truth, whether if I have any like cultural real estate or like relevancy. Like I was like really afraid I was gonna get up there and people were just gonna be like, "Oh, another one of those guys." Like it'd be like the one seater people could just be like, "Oh, yeah, we've seen that." Like they're like, "Oh, New York's crazy." Like I thought there might just be this like
Oh,
extra
like a
world.
smugness or whatever.
Yeah, or just the fact that like what I'm doing, I'm afraid if I like made it to New York, they'd be like, "Oh, there's a ton of people doing that exact same thing here." You know what I mean? Do you feel that? Like I guess but being from New York, you probably cracked that code at a young age of realizing it's just
Oh
another
yeah,
city.
there's a lot of imposter syndrome that comes with being in New York.
Really?
Just everyone is putting up a front. Everyone's trying to do something different, and in that, I mean, there's only an X amount of notes in a scale. There's only X amount of notes in music, only X amount of sounds you can really get. So it's like the moment you let go of that. I mean, that was a big thing. There were a lot of like cliques and exclusive like circles, social circles and stuff in New York, and there still are, but it's different now. A lot of places that really heralded them like shut down. I mean, they were all lovely spaces, but there definitely were like groups of people who stuck together. Um, but the way
Right.
I view it now, and the thing that really kind of helped me navigate that was just the realization that good music is good music.
Hmm.
There's a difference between someone who's kind of just going through the motions, is maybe a good performer but boring, but then there's a performer who has good songs like Nordista. You're a terrific musician and songwriter.
Thank you, man.
Like it was. I didn't have any doubt that anyone would get it, no matter where they are in the world. Like it's like
Hmm.
good music is universal.
That's true. It is universal. Actually just a very solid answer to that. It's like that. That totally makes sense.
Yeah, and look, like if they do view it with us treated like we've seen it before, it's kind of just like so what? I mean, we've seen everything before. I mean now what even no, I can't think of any concrete examples, but everything is just repeating itself. It's just
Right.
we're constantly taking things from other people. It's like impossible not to. It's like,
Yeah.
you know how many times like people like said, "Oh, whoa, like do you like the Strokes?" or "Oh, like you like whatever." It's like you come to realize like, yeah, well that's like, you know, that if that's what people associate it with, that's fine, you know.
Right.
It's kind of just like a matter of just being like it's okay. Um
Yeah.
it doesn't really it's all been done because the
Right.
Strokes, you know, people said, "Oh, the Strokes sound like Velvet Underground," and I mean, I don't know if
True.
anyone said
Yeah.
the Velvet Underground says like sounds like anything, so maybe it's
Yeah.
not a perfect thing, but
Yeah. Velvet Underground
these
are actually like
days,
just such a unique band.
yeah,
Um.
I think these days just so much sonic ground is constantly being explored, and you know,
Yeah.
it's become less about what you're. I mean, you can if you're innovative, sure, great, and if that's your thing, that's awesome. You know, I spent a long time trying to really put pressure on myself to do something that was like unconventional or whatever. But then you realize that whatever you're making is inherently unconventional because you're not, you know, you're not someone else. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you're not another person. You're yourself, and that's very corny and like it's like cliche to say, but it's just the more I've been instilling that in myself, the better, the easier it's been to navigate things like that. I mean, every time I went on tour, especially in Nashville, actually. So it's funny that we kind of had these like the inverse happen to us
Yeah.
but I was like, we came to Nashville, and I was like, okay, well, these people are insanely talented. This is like a big, you know, music world. Are we gonna flop? Are we gonna, you know, are people not gonna like it? And I think people liked it, from what I remember.
Yeah. That's cool. I've been into it too, man. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
People in Nashville don't really know how to dance. Very much. I feel like people are just like they're all like they all play guitar. So
Mm-hmm.
I still find it I get nervous to play guitar in front of a Nashville crowd. But if you do anything like artistic or if you shake your hips at all, then Nashville's gonna their jaw's gonna drop. you know. Yeah, and
Well,
like
it's
you
funny
said,
because like Lava Gulls, like it was all like I actually
oh
just spoke
yeah,
with I just spoke with Jonathan the other day actually.
cool.
Um, but yeah, like they were like not like they were like all using SP404 samplers and stuff. Like it was not like you know none of the bands were typical you know rock guitar, which was
Yeah,
really also like kind of extra like this is awesome, but I'm terrified to play right now.
right. Well, yeah, I mean that's actually I guess the thing is there is a lot of people like someone like Jonathan, like Lava Golds, like there are bands who are like totally like pushing boundaries and doing like really cool stuff in Nashville. It's just a small enough city to where like I don't know, it's like everyone like that gets their I feel like shine pretty bright. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
local newspapers and like local promoters will be like, "Oh yeah, like we love Lava Goals," or you know, like it's I don't know, there's just something it's actually smaller than people think. And if you're doing anything like creative or like going out on a limb, you can I at least I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe bands that are local might disagree, but I think you can make a name for yourself quicker than you'd think in Nashville if you're
Mm-hmm.
making the kind of just like having fun and making crazy art.
I
It's a
feel
good
that.
place to be, though. It's a good place to be.
This is really special. What do you think is like the biggest misconception about Nashville? Like it can either be about music or it can be about like the life there, whatever. But what do you think is like a big misconception that you kind of are like, no, that's not right?
I think that's a great question. I mean, I think that the industry is just not. It's very separate. Like there is like the big country thing, but it is just. I mean, it's not even. I just there's no relationship between the two. Like I might be friends with somebody who is a writer and has like a publishing deal and writes like bro country, but like that industry being here, there's not as like an indie or alternative scene here like beyond the artists. Like I don't think that there's like I don't know. I could be wrong. I mean, I guess that's not true because there are people who like work for Atlantic and stuff here, but I don't know. Dang, dude. It's just I feel like it's different than people think because the thing that people think of like a guy coming down here with like an acoustic guitar and chasing his dream to be like a songwriter, all of that's happening like a few blocks over from like where we are, and like
Mm-hmm.
you can pretty much live in separate worlds. And people like Lava Goals or like people who are making like doing like DIY like Chris Rock's mansion and stuff can be like a different world. But I guess 180 to that, or like one thing that I would add to that to flip it, is that everyone is really receptive of everyone. Like I hardly ever meet anyone who like overtly negative or like cynical. Like people are pretty receptive here and nice. And yeah, I don't know. The touring bands into each other, and so that's one thing that I really like about Nashville.
That was
You
the
know,
vibe I got. That everyone was just really warm and receptive. You know?
yeah, I don't know why that is, but I mean, maybe that's just people. Maybe just are always afraid of each other, and then we're always nice. Because I think most of the time on tour, you're like, "Oh, I don't know about Baltimore," and then you like get there, and everyone's like, "Yay, we love you here." And we're like, "Oh, what? I didn't know Baltimore people were so nice."
Yeah,
But
Baltimore is nice. I mean, Baltimore, I've had some something weird happen. I forget what it was at this moment, but I remember
really,
like making a mental note. I was like, Baltimore, cool people, great place, but something weird went down. Like it was like someone came up to us and tried to like I think someone came and tried to like sit in our van and have cake with us or something. I don't know, something weird like that. And we were like, I mean, we'll give you cake, but we gotta go. I'm sorry. I mean, we'd invite you. You know, there's not really room. It was like 5 people or something. So it wasn't gonna work.
that's special, man. That's special. I've had
Yeah.
some pretty weird experiences in that city as well. But that's part of DIY too. You're like, oh, I remember that city. We played in underneath a Joe's Crab Shack for this guy, and the speaker blew out, and it's just every you know what I mean. It's like
I love that.
just always crazy, like disastrous stories that like end beautifully, but are
Yeah.
like in the moment you're like, I remember being so anxious about if this is
Yeah.
gonna work.
It's like knowing in a month from now you're gonna laugh, but it's
Hmm.
like in that moment it's like, oh my god, this is the end of the world.
Yes, especially with time things. Like it'll be like you're like, oh well, the show's supposed to start at 9 and it is 9:40. Maybe is literally nobody going to come? And then all of a sudden,
Oh
like
my god,
a school
yeah.
bus of people emerging. You're like, oh, okay. Why did I fall for that again? Why did I think nobody was gonna show up? I, I don't
There
know.
have been ones. There have been some like early tours where like some like I don't know if you ever had it where like a promoter will not coordinate at all. Like the promoter won't coordinate at all, and nobody will show up, and then like you just don't play the show. You just like play board games or whatever the fuck.
I have done that. Yes, I do have it like maybe 2 or 3 times, and that happened. Yes,
Yeah.
literally played like Mario Kart with like a guy one time instead of playing the show.
Sometimes it's like that. It's nice to take a break. I think like that was what I the last time that happened to me I think was maybe a few years ago, and I was like really anxious in the moment, but then I was like, well, maybe we needed a break.
Yeah,
So it's kind of I like to take it as it comes.
yeah, that's good, man. That's a good approach, dude. Thank you for letting me take so much of your time. I know
No,
we've
I
totally
could
gone
literally
over on
go on
time.
forever with you. Like
Yeah,
it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I've wanted to catch up for a while, so I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy that you had me. And I really like this idea. I'm curious who else have you been talking to?
well, it's funny you say that. I'm actually having on supposed to be having on tonight, but we you got it pushed back. But Eli from well, the Tongues of Fire boys, and then from Top Nachos as well. We're
Oh,
gonna do a
nice.
joint episode
Oh, you mean
tonight.
Eli and Eli,
Yeah,
both of
Eli
them?
and Eli.
Nice.
And yeah. And wait. What's Tongues of Fire drummer's name?
Is that Lowell?
Yes, Lowell. I know Lowell, I just am blanking out. But yeah, Eli, Lowell, and Eli. Because Eli and Lowell actually they hit me up because I was doing auditions for my 10-week tour, and they're like, we might be able to do this. And I wound up having like a close friend like reach out and fill the spot, but like I almost like hit them up to like join me, and they were gonna play in my band for like 10 weeks, which would have been
I love
crazy.
that.
Yeah, that would have been cool. But yeah, um I don't know, I've had on a bunch of different Nashville people and just friends from tour and whoever I can. I'm trying to do 3 episodes a week now, so just keep meeting people and yeah, all types of
Man,
people, man.
I love this idea. I don't know. I think you're such a great conversationalist, so I think like I don't know. It's so awesome. I just as soon as you told me you did a podcast, I was like, yes, like this is perfect. This is the perfect person to do a podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I gotta say, you're a great conversationalist yourself. This has been an amazing conversation, and so if you ever think about doing the same, I think you would run a pretty good podcast or type thing. So it's very easy to do. So
Thank
definitely something
you.
to think about.
Do you what do you okay, well this is I'll let you go. I'll ask you the podcast questions after. I'm just intrigued by your setup, but
Word, yeah, we can end it and then we can talk about that if you want.
yeah, sure.
Word, let's do it. Wait, what should we plug before you go? For anyone who's made it,
Okay. I'll say a couple things. So
please
if
do
you can follow Dolly Spartans on
on IG.
all the media on IG at Dolly Spartans, Twitter. We've had a couple good tweets. Maybe two. We are playing like a like a virtual show, like we're doing one of our newer songs on January. Well, I don't know when this is going to come out, so maybe it'll be after the fact, but I'll
This will
plug
be
it anyway.
Friday.
Friday? Okay. So
Hmm.
I think I don't know what day that is. Oh, so maybe it'll be after the fact, but if not, just in case, I think it might be the day after. But January 28th, we're playing um like a new song for this virtual show
Oh, cool.
that's hosted by Baby's All Right. As you set up for me,
Oh,
actually,
sick.
with
Yeah.
through Lee, it was awesome.
Cool. Yes.
Waltzer TV.
Yes. Okay.
Um,
Of course. Yeah. Walter. Cool.
so we did that. My good buds in Drug Bug have submitted a song. A friend of mine, Pinky. I have to see the full list of people playing, but it's a good group
I
of
actually
people.
love both of those bands, Pinky and Drug Bug. What Drug Bug? Drug Bug is I like from I think from you probably me being like, hey, who should I book with in town? Like I've like listened
Oh
to both
yeah,
of their album like band camps and stuff.
Phil and I like we talk every night. Phil from Drug Bug, we talk like every night.
So cool.
Him, his partner Andrea and I like we all like just like Zoom and like find something to cope and distract ourselves. Like lately, we I think they bought Minecraft as a joke, and then we all got too into it, which I'm like ashamed to admit. But yeah, it's
That's
kind of so
awesome.
because it's the only first of all, it's the only thing where all three of us could like play something at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Video games have been a way to cope to an extent.
Video games are
Um,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, I like them. Um, now back to the plug. Uh, you should follow us on Spotify or whatever you're supposed to do on Spotify.
Yeah, something like
Um,
that.
you can go to our Bandcamp, dollyspartans.bandcamp.com. We're gonna put out new music this year, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And just oh yeah, there are a lot of like small business like mask makers, like there are people on the thing that I found out that I'm gonna like my little health tip is there's a mask called the TM 2020, and what it is this nurse practitioner, I think from Austin, Texas. I might be wrong on that, but she made this mask that the patent is available. Like you can make it if you want to. It's just like a bit difficult, but it basically has an N95 filter in it, and then it's like concealed in a cloth thing. So it's like a super good mask.
Wow, that's cool.
I figured I'd spread the word on that just because that has been like I've been swearing by it for like the last few months.
That's cool.
It's pretty rock and roll.
That's awesome, man. Right on.
Yeah,
Well, sweet. I guess we'll cut it.
yeah. Thanks so much, Freeze.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an honor talking. Bye
Honor as
bye.
always. Bye bye.
I'll see you on the other side of this.
See you on the other side of this call.